And we're live with another ride with Dead Air Dennis Maler, who had a lot of energy and he fell off once. And Mark jokingly said, well, that was a fun one-way conversation.
And you definitely better drink too much coffee for this episode if you want to keep up with Dennis. It was a wild, wild ride. What a good time. And some real human elements too. Definitely stick around for the heartfelt conversation towards the end. And I can't say this enough. We do say it every week. And if you're hearing my voice and you haven't gone to the Compton Cowboys website and donated, or haven't gone to mopedoutlaws.com and found Blast and Compton Cowboys a place to donate, please consider donating. Both of these organizations continue to do really important things for society, particularly today with sexual assault being one of the things that came up in our conversation. So trigger warning if sexual assault discussions are triggering for you. Blast is doing everything it can to reduce trafficking, and we want to support that person and their efforts to make the world safer for women, and particularly women of color who get short shrift in a lot of these arenas of help and assistance. And I just want to say thanks to my partner, Greg, for showing up the way he does with such insightful questions. And it's a joy to be part of this.
Zes, hallo?
Leven.
Stuur zeker wegen them.
Yo je iets niet, joh.
Sitaki Benza, Anika City.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Mark.
Welcome to another episode of Moped Outlaws. And today we are stoked to have our guest, Dead Air Dennis Maler. And he's a comedian, actor, writer, and podcaster who's been heard on radio stations throughout the country, including Sirius XM, DC 101, The Party Playhouse with Jackson Blue, and more. He's been featured on comedy festivals throughout the country, is the comedy editor for Dig Boston, and hosts the Big Comedy Network podcast, So What Do You Really Do? And the YouTube show Word of the Day with Comedians. Dead Air Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's great to have your energy today for sure.
That's because I've been drinking since 6 a.m. So
drinking tea?
No, I'm on the road traveling, and I'm visiting my hometown of Baltimore. I live in Boston now, but I'm in Baltimore. And this morning, my friend's radio station had a live, out of studio event at a restaurant here in Baltimore. And I showed up at 5:30 in the morning to hang out with them, and started drinking Natty Bohs and Jack Daniels at 6 a.m. So
that's pretty good.
I'm nice and spicy. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's a Natty Boh anyway?
Oh, National Bohemian. It's a particular type of beer. It was originally started into the Baltimore area. It was bought up by the Pabst Blue Ribbon Company back in the 80s. And it's just the national brand of shit beer that is well known to the Baltimoreans alike.
Baltimoreans. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Right before we started recording, we were talking about David Lynch, and every time I hear Pabst Blue Ribbon, I always think of Blue Velvet. Heineken, fuck that, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, I drink the Pabst Blue Ribbon of Baltimore because it was the official beer of the Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles, the O's, as we like to call them. And I now obviously still drink the beer, but don't pay attention to sports because I grew up in the 80s as an Orioles fan, so now I naturally hate sports.
All right, well, welcome to the club. We're not really sports. We like the entertainment of it and the banter. But, yeah. All right, so
well, before we move on, any mention of Baltimore baseball, we have to talk about Brooks Robinson, the world's greatest third baseman ever.
Yep.
I mean,
yes, he was.
If you look at Brooks Robinson's career, and I followed him as a kid, you see the heart of a lion. I mean, that guy, I think the story is he got his whole tricep torn through trying to retrieve a ball when he's landed in the dugout. He got hooked on one of the hooks for the balls.
Yeah, it was like jelly hanging off of his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, of course,
Right,
the best third baseman of the entire industry, played right next to the best shortstop of the entire Major League Baseball, and that's, of course, Cal Ripken. Both of them, Baltimore. Both of them became, Brooks became more well known as a broadcaster afterwards. Amazing talent on the microphone, and just being able to analyze and be able to break it down to its basics form for people. And then, Cal is now working back in the office of the Orioles, just helping the team get themselves resituated back onto, the path
back on track to be the most mediocre team in the modern era.
Yeah. You know what? You say mediocre. You know what? I'm going to say, they sucked a lot in the 80s and 90s, but you know what? The best farm team for the Major League Baseball, for every team but themselves, was the Orioles. They did a great job taking in new talent, cultivating them, making them major superstars, and then before they could peak, sell them off to somebody else. They were very, very good at developing talent, just not for themselves. So,
did you ever entertain like fantasies of being a baseball player when you were a kid?
I mean, I think I had a lot of fantasies of being everything as a kid. Of course, I wanted to be a baseball player. Of course, I wanted to be a football star. I wanted to be a tennis star when I figured out how to play tennis as a kid. It was like, a backhand? Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, everything that I ever tried, I dreamed immensely, very obsessively that, I could become good at this. And then, of course, reality sets in. I was like, oh, no, I'm not good at this.
So how did you figure out you were good at comedy?
I don't know if I'm still good at comedy. I'm still figuring that part out. Here's where comedy started. I repeated Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer in my middle school to other kids and saw how happy they got listening to these jokes, and realized that I wanted to continue that until one day a kid said, "Hey, that's a Dennis Leary joke." And then I felt embarrassed internally and shamed. And I was like, I guess I have to come up with my own jokes. And when I would actually come up with something funny on the spot that I thought of my own brain, I realized that's a different feeling that makes me warm inside. I need to follow that.
All right. So what about those nights when you're up there and there's 6 people in the club, no one's laughing, and how do you persevere through that experience?
I mean, it's different situations. You can't deliver to, an audience of 6 people who aren't paying attention the same way you do an audience of 600 that are hanging on every word. So you develop how to approach the situation that is the appropriate for the place that you're in. It's the same thing with my day job, which is I'm a comedic tour guide of the city of Boston. The tour I give to 2 people sitting on that vehicle is different than the show I give 34 people. And it has to be, because you can't just, to me, my stand-up and my performance on the tour guide are 2 different comedic performances. And they have some small crossover, but for the most part, they have to be different. So you just approach the situations. Like, example, a bar show is going to be different than how I approach a corporate audience. I'm not going to do the same show for them. So you have to learn that as a performer, that different situations require a different touch, require a different approach. Same thing. I'm not going to, if I was in a play, I'm not going to perform to an audience in a proscenium style stage the same way that I'm going to if I'm performing for a camera in a movie. So every situation you have to learn to adapt to how that situation is. Like Jeremy Irons is a great example of this. Jeremy Irons plays to the back of a theater. He's a classically trained Shakespearean actor that performs to the person in the back row of the theater, and he's big and he's dramatic. But you put him on camera, and that's too big for camera, because cameras are close and they're intimate and they're up in your face, and your little nuances become amplified. Whereas on stage, you have to amplify it for the situation. So it's all everything. Every performance, every place has to be different and has to adapt to the situation you're in. And the key to a performer is knowing what's the right touch for each situation. And you're always constantly learning. You're always constantly figuring those situations out.
So it sounds like today's word of the day for comedians is calibration.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes, that's calibration. Yeah. You always got to just make micro adjustments to the situation. And that's where the repetition of performing comes in. It's like, oh, okay, I'm in this situation now. And you also have to be very present. You always have to be understanding the situation that you're in. You always have to be learning. And that's where repetition for a comedian comes in place, where the reason why we do so many performances over and over and over and over again is that so we know the material so well that we can deliver the performance while in the back of the brain thinking about what's going on. And I can talk and be reciting the information while my brain's going, okay, here's where you're at right now. Here's how this person's reacting. Here's how that person's reacting. Here is why they're reacting differently. So you have to adjust the upcoming thing for that situation. And that's
you just my favorite moments. You just explained to me how ventriloquists are so good at it.
They have a little thing talking in their ear the whole time. Yeah.
So who's your GOAT in comedy?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bobcat Goldthwait, just because he's changed his style over the years. Most people know him as the incredibly crazy and yelling guy from the Police Academy. Look like this. But he's not that guy anymore. He's so narratively based storytelling, and he still has such a great bite and a acidity to his comedy and to the targets of the subject that he targets. Well, also is an amazing director of both like movies, television shows, talk shows, and comedy specials. Like he was the director for Jimmy Kimmel for, probably up still to this day. Like he's constantly directing off and on now, but more for like the first 10 years of Jimmy Kimmel's show. He was directing that show. He directed other people's comedy specials. He directed movies. He's an incredibly amazing, prolific Renaissance man that's performing both in front of the camera and working how to be behind the camera, while also at the same time creating this narrative of here's where I am in life. Like here's a guy whose best friend was Robin Williams. This guy is best friends with the biggest comedian to ever live in the entire world ever at any time, and is probably the most recognized comedic influence of all time.
Since Don
Well,
Rickles.
he lived practically in obscurity. Like to know who Bobcat Goldthwait is really new. Like most people know who Bobcat Goldthwait, but they don't know his material. Like find someone on the street that can recite one Bobcat Goldthwait joke. Outside of me, that's it.
Yeah, I just have vague memories of, like you said, the way he sounds and how it feels to listen to him yell. But I don't think I can recite. Like I can do prior. I can catch my hand. But I can't do Goldthwait. I always thought it was Goldthwait, but it's Goldthwait.
Goldthwait. Yeah, it's also hard now to pronounce. Like here's a guy that also
maybe
decided,
that's why he's so obscure.
The change of his name was he changed it from Bob Goldthwait to Bobcat. Like you didn't really do anything else to like make your name easier for anyone. Like Louis C.K. changed his name from Louis Polish name to C.K. Bobcat Goldthwait did not make his last name easier to pronounce.
But no one else is Bobcat.
As a joke, by the way, on top of it, welcome to the Bobcat Goldthwait History Hour, where his name changed it as a joke and then kept it. Because him, and by the way, his other best friend, the person he started comedy with, Tom Kenny, who is the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys are best friends, as well with Robin Williams. The two of them went to their first open mic together in Boston, and they jokingly changed their name to Bobcat and Tomcat to troll the host of the open mic, who was at the time was Barry Crimmins, going by the name Bearcat. So they're like, oh, this guy has a stupid nickname Bearcat. Let's call ourselves Bobcat and Tomcat just to troll him. And then he kept it. Like, that's dedication to a bit right there.
Yeah, that sure is.
And also, arguably, out of the three names I just said, is the second most famous out of actually, he's probably the most famous out of the names because everyone knows SpongeBob SquarePants, but nobody knows Tom Kenny's name. But everyone knows the name Bobcat Goldthwait. And Barry Crimmins, R.I.P., legendary comedian in the Boston area, satirical, is the definition of satirical comedy, has an amazing documentary about him and his comedy and what happened to him as a youth that inspired him to become the man that he is. Tragic story. Do not watch it if you want to have a feel-good story because it's not. The Barry Crimmins documentary is not a feel-good story in any way, shape, or form. And it was, I think Bobcat also directed that as well. So there you go. Documentarian, filmmaker, TV maker, stand-up comedian, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Wow. GOAT. Greatest of all time, according to Dead Air Dennis Maler.
Not of all time, but my favorite. I don't do the I don't do the greatest.
There's no all time. So there's no GOAT.
Yeah, I do. Like, I think there's so many things that are subjective in life that I decided a long time ago that I'm going to speak to what my favorites and my dislikes are, and I'm not going to say that my subjective opinion is the measure of quality. And I really removed a lot of saying this is good because of this and this is bad because of this, or I like this, so therefore it's good. I removed that from my vocabulary and just say, this is what I like and what I enjoy. I try to. Sometimes I'm very bad at it. And as someone who's in the arts, entertainment, multimedia industry, sometimes I can speak to quality because of these objective features of something. But I try to remove that and always say, this is what my favorite is. I'm not going to say Bobcat should be everyone's favorite, but he is definitely one of my absolute favorites.
Got it. He's the comedian you order for breakfast on New Year's Day.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And Eliza Schlesinger is also amazingly talented.
Oh my God, I love her.
All right, she transcends gender roles. She's a very smart, talented comedian who works so hard, and she has so many multifaceted levels of comedy. Like I've every so often I'll message her on social media, or I listen to her regular podcast, Ask Eliza Anything. And I'll bring up that I've been a huge fan of her. She used to have this weird, tiny little obscure blog called Sky Mall Definitions for Your Life, which were just the thing that she never really published. She never talks about it. Sometimes I'll bring it up in her thing. She was like, don't tell anybody about that. It was this little blog post where she would make these Sky Mall style overemphasized, emphatic descriptions about everyday mundane things. And it was just an amazing writing exercise for her as an early early comedian, like her post Boston, moving to LA, first years in LA thing that she just did because she had a desire to be creative in a way that wasn't on stage. She wrote these other things, and she now has a Substack that is fantastic and well written. The Substack is short little quips about things in popular culture that are not good enough, not to say it's good. That's not appropriate for her stage performance, but it's still something that she wants to talk about. She's an amazing, talented writer that is also should be an inspiration to a lot of women who wanted to be writers, who want to be comedians as well, because unfortunately there's not a lot of examples of that through history for people that don't look like the three white guys that are on the show right now.
Well, he brings something up that's pretty interesting, because a lot of female comedians I've heard talk about the locker room reality of the green room, and how comedians especially are merciless with regards to their, the way they handle themselves as men around women. And have you observed that? Do you see that as a reality in
Oh, absolutely. It's my podcast last year. I'm fortunate enough that I get to be a traveling comedian, and I spent 95 days straight on the road last winter. I'm going to spend probably another 80 to 90 days on the road again this winter, traveling across the country. And I documented this very specifically on my podcast that in 2025, the end of 2024, then the 2025, how much of a boys club so much of comedy is around the country. I grew up in very liberal bubbles of Baltimore, and I live in Boston. Both are very liberal cities. Both are very matriarchal cities. At least I like to think they are.
Really, Boston?
Boston is there is a higher women population in Boston than in Baltimore. I don't know the exact statistics, but I'm willing to believe that Massachusetts population is at least 55% women, 45% men. Like, at least in my experience living there, there's a lot more women that live in the city than there are men. And it is a very liberal city, or likes to think it is. I firmly believe that most of the New England is the South with just a different accent. I think their racism is very patronizing and different, but they like to hold themselves up as being very liberal and accepting and open. I think in a patriotic, in a patronizing way, but that's a whole nother conversation. But like when I moved from Baltimore to Boston in 2013. And at that move, what blew me away instantly was the amount of women doing comedy in Boston. There are more women doing comedy at an open mic any night of the week in Boston than there were doing comedy as a whole in Baltimore at the time. There's a lot more women in DC, like Baltimore, DC areas are very, kissing cousins, close. If you're in one city performing, you're performing in the other city. They're so,
so you were starting to talk about the boys club that you were documenting.
Yeah. So that's the thing. What blew my mind is going around the country is like, I'm so used to being around so many talented female comedians, and just also in a large population, that when I started going around the country, from the drive I went from last year, Baltimore to Key West to LA, back to Boston. And I did a lot of comedy shows, and I did a lot of open mics. And open mics alone, from the drive from Baltimore to Key West to LA, I could count on my two hands how many women were at these open mics throughout that entire drive. Imagine that. I spent 4 weeks traveling the country, the entire month of January, and less than 10 women were doing comedy at open mics.
Have you been up to the Bay Area?
I have not been to San Francisco. I have not been up to San Francisco. But by the time I got to LA, I saw more female comedians. But it's like when we're talking about Charlotte, North Carolina, Greensboro, Key West, Charleston, El Paso, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans. Like New Orleans is where I probably saw the most female comedians until I got to LA, because that's a very welcoming, opening scene. Like Chris True, who runs the comedy scene, Hell Yes Fest, and a lot of the Hell Yes comedy scene that is in New Orleans, is very open and welcoming, because he's an improviser, and they tend to be a little more accepting than comedy. Throughout Florida, I spent a week in Florida, and we're talking about maybe 8 women who did comedy, maybe 6 I saw for a week in doing it. It's very male dominated for a lot of reasons. What are those reasons? Who knows? Is it because comedy is more attracted to men, or more attracted to doing comedy? The idea of comedy as an industry is more attractive to male personalities? Maybe. Do we as a society reward men for being funnier than we do women? Maybe. Are women not attracted to that performance style lifestyle? Maybe. Do women not feel comfortable in that atmosphere? Probably. Like you should be very aware of what environment are you setting up for the people around you when you're creating a group activity. Are you being welcomed to other people? Like when I moved to Boston, it was not very welcoming to other people outside of the Boston area. I watched for the first couple of years how they actively turned people away, both audience and other performers.
I've heard
the society changed. The society changed a little bit when I moved there. Did I have an influence on it being welcoming to other people? Maybe. Is it just because society in general changed in the time that world we were living in changed? Maybe. I don't know. but it's you should also be very cognizant of the world that you're presenting. And I had to be wary of that my own self when I would, especially when I was in Florida, the outward appearance that I'm presenting to the other comedians. Am I being someone that wants that presents himself as somebody who wants to be talked to? Am I just sitting in the corner like this? You know, like I learned a lot about my own self when I was in Florida. You know, I learned a lot about, like, I'm somebody who lives with mental illness, and I started to have a real, you know, come to Jesus moment where I'm like, why am I being depressed right now? Why am I being antisocial right now? I'm an outgoing person. Do I need to go back on antidepressants, or do I need to leave Florida?
What did you decide?
I needed to leave Florida.
That's what, there's a morning radio show here in San Francisco I like, and one of the hosts' families in Florida, whenever they have a crazy story from the news, they always joke about how it's from Florida. Oh
yeah, that's well, Adam Carolla on the old show Loveline had a bit, Germany or Florida. If you heard something crazy in the news, it either happened in Germany or Florida.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about, there's, like, I've heard Bill Burr talk a lot about how when he was coming up in Boston and it was the school of hard knocks, like you would get chewed up and spit out on a Tuesday night because it was fun. The other comics loved it.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Burr's era of Boston and the era of Boston I grew up were two very different realms, and they are. And I grew up with the perception of Bill Burr's era Boston, where it's like, it's mostly townies and it's ball breaking and it's tough, and we're a bunch of Irish people, like, just, you know, giving it to each other. And when I got there, it really wasn't that. Boston is a lot of, there's no real true Bostonians living in Boston. It's mostly transplants. It's mostly like me. I'm a transplant. I'm not gonna put on the airs that I'm a true real Bostonian. I'm not. I'm a Baltimorean. I grew up in Baltimore for 31 years and I moved to Boston. But it's a very it's a city full of liberal white people that have only been around other liberal whites, and they finally come there for academics or for, you know, tech industry, and they finally are inundated with the smallest amount of culture, the smallest amount of arts, and the smallest amount of diversity, the very smallest amount of diversity, and then they cling on to that, and they move into this idea that this is us trying to change the world. Boston is, since day one, Boston has considered itself the hub of the world. There's an amazing amount of self-confidence, arrogance that comes with living in Boston and Massachusetts, that, like, literally the city calls itself the hub. Like, that's its nickname for it, because it literally thinks of itself as the city on a hill. Back into the fucking 1660, when the Puritans moved there, they literally considered themselves the city that everyone else should look up to, which means they think everyone else is beneath them.
Right.
So it's a very attractive city to people that want to have some semblance of, I am better than others.
You got to say that with a Boston accent.
There's something you snuck in there really quickly while you were talking about this that I think is relevant, and is that a lot of comedians are neurodivergent and have different mental health issues that show up for them. Is that corroborative from your experience? Is that something you know to be true from your colleagues and the people you meet? And why do you think that that's true? What is it about being funny that is helpful to us normal neurons, and then helpful for folks who are neurospicy to be able to be funny?
I think it's the relation of wanting to have to express yourselves. I think the arts in general is attractive to people who are, to use the medical term, neurodivergent of some sort. I'm not a comedian because I live with depression. and obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't think I became a comedian of those things. I think that I became a comedian because I was attracted to the industry. Like I try to be very pragmatic about the entertainment industry in itself, in that like a lot of people love to think that the creation of art is from divine intervention. Lightning from the gods have to be struck to my brain to create this art form. Where it's like, no.
I have been gifted Muse's breast milk to make this art for you.
Right? Right? I'm sucking from the teeth of Dionysus to create this music. Same thing, like not just jokes, but stories, movies, songs. The amount of musicians like, I have to wait for inspiration. No. You can create things. Like there's a great YouTuber, Rob Scallon, Scallion, I think his name is. And he's a great very talented musician, and he does a YouTube series of different like musical challenges and stuff. Like one thing they do every year with him and his musician friend is they will go into the studio and they will create an entire album in 10 hours. No pre-thought, they just create a song on the spot. They create 10 songs on the spot for an album. It's called 1st of October. They do it the October 1st every year. They make a YouTube video. They put it out. The albums are available on Spotify. And you can watch the creation of songs where they're like, okay, this is how you create a song. We're going to do it in this key. We're going to do this rhythm pattern. Here's the subject of the lyrics. Okay, here's a subject about which we can write a song about. And from the outside perspective, you can look at it like this is very pragmatic music writing. I think everything arts-wise, for the most part, is also very not easy to create, but there's a formula stuff. Like there's a formula jokes. If anyone tells you that joke structure is not a thing, they're a fucking liar. Joke structure. So
just lay it out. What is joke structure really quick? What is it?
Set up, punchline. And I this is a great example of
break it down a little bit more. What's in a setup?
So the couple of years ago, I was doing a job out in Dallas for, like day job stuff. I was a sound man for a traveling dance company. And we're sitting backstage in between dance performances, and me and like judges and the other technicians and stuff, we're sitting around, we're joking around, talking about stuff. And I just off the cuff make a huge joke about whatever the subject. I don't know what happened, but it was like, so I make some joke. And one of the judges, who was a dancer, like she grew up going to dance school. She's become a dancer as an adult. She's judging a dance competition. All she's known in her entire life is dance. And she goes, that was so funny. And one of the other guys goes, it's because he's a comedian. It's like, how do you create something so funny like that on the spot? It's like, well, it's standard joke structure. You take a subject, and then you instantly have to know what's the opposite but related thing that will elicit promote a natural reaction to it of surprise. Like when we laugh, laughter is from being surprised by something. And that's just a natural response to being surprised. So you have to think of the thing that is the exact opposite, but also is still related enough to be able for the brain to connect the dots to it. So that's what you have to do. You have to go through your brain instantly and think of what's the related subject. I think we talked about something like wearing hoodies. And then the joke was, oh yeah, now we're a bunch of monks who are chanting AOS to Domine, Clatu Verata Nicto, whatever the joke was. And we all laughed at it. So it's like, here's the thing. All right. In my brain, in that instant, what I have to do to understand joke structure and immediately instinctively know that, all right, we're talking about hoods. What other things require hoods? Gangsters, monks, Ku Klux Klan. All right, I don't want to go Ku Klux Klan because then that's not related. All right, let's go back to monks. Okay, what do monks do? They make wine. They chant. They are monasteries. They are celibate. No, let's go back. Okay. And then your brain has to put all these connections together and go, okay, yeah, it's like if we all just gathered together and we're walking around going, like Mighty Python, which again, Mighty Python, we might have played with that crowd.
No, we love Monty Python.
Yeah, you guys, yes. I know my audience with Monty Python. A bunch of dancers They don't, a bunch of ballet performers don't know Monty Python. Weird. But I have to figure out the thing for that audience.
Dead Air, I think what you just explained is the element that isn't pragmatic. That creative element I see is, like, I would say divine, but it's that realm of infinity. There is no beginning and end. Like, if you were sitting there consciously going through everything you just stated, the timing of the joke would be 5 minutes behind you.
No, because I get what you're saying. And no, it's because it's repetition, it's performance, it's self-awareness, and all these things come with practice.
Right.
But the ability to create a joke faster is because I just have done it for so long and I understand what the structure is. So my brain has to go to it instinctively. I can also say that when I'm not performing as much, that muscle is slower. It's being able to come up with creativity is a muscle. And I don't want to talk about improv or positively because reason why you call it improv and not comedy is because it's not comedy. But one thing that improv can teach you is to react naturally in a situation. And so improv training is really good for actors. It's really good for comedians. It's really good for writers and performers because it helps you to get past those inhibitions that would normally slow you up. And it also requires you to practice active thinking, active listening, and active performance.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other ways to practice these things, but improv is a good way of doing it, especially if you're not native to it. There's an amazing amount of people that are great, talented comedians that don't know why they're funny because they never understood the things that they are naturally doing. They've never learned to be able to hone that. They never learned to be able to activate that. And so you could be naturally funny because your body instinctively reacts in a funny way to things, but you don't know how to harness that. And they can only react in the way that they only know how to react. Like, one of the hardest things about writing is not just writing in your voice, but being able to write in any voice. You know, I know guys who are hilarious comedians that can only write dirty. They can't write a clean joke to save their lives. And I'm not going to say clean comedy is better than dirty comedy or vice versa. Comedy is comedy no matter across the board. But there's people who instinctively only know how to write dirty because they never learned the ability to write clean.
Well, there's also, like, you go with your gut, you know, like their area is dirty. Like, that's, you know, what they're going to be comfortable in. And it also occurs to me, like with Mark's question about neurodivergence and the potential that there's a attraction to comedy or entertainment.
I think it's also a lot of that is I think a lot of the attraction is also as Kevin Pollak calls it, the hey, look at me disorder.
Right. Fuck. Like we all want to be recognized, and we just lost Dead Air. He just unplugged himself.
No, I think it was that his computer was probably running out of battery. He'll be back shortly. And this is a great opportunity for Greg and I to write a joke about how many improvisers it takes to turn on a light bulb. I don't know the answer. We'll have to see.
We'll have to see if he makes it back on.
I sure hope he does, because this is a great one-way conversation.
Yeah, he does have a lot of energy, and he certainly warned us before he.
Yes.
He told us he's been having a lot of fun since the wee hours of the morning in Baltimore.
And we're all the benefit of that. And this is what's called stretching. Hopefully, Dead Air will come back. If not, thanks for joining us. And remember, U2 was a great band.
Hey, so Mark, Foo Fighters or Eminem?
Oh, I'm going with Foo Fighters right now.
All right.
I'm particularly interested because Dave just talked about how he's doing a Hanukkah concert, which he did last year as well.
Oh, I remember those. The 8 nights of Hanukkah. Yeah.
Right. So he's doing I don't know if it's a show or if it's a record. I think it's a show that'll be a record. It's a record-breaking show. That
was good.
Thank you. I'm here all night. And I haven't been drinking. I am feeling rather lighthearted though, which is great.
That's good. Yes.
Yeah. I realize, the holidays is hard for a lot of people. Someone told me a really lonely story yesterday, and I was like,
really?
oh my God. And I'm like, go away.
All right. Scrooge.
No. One of the things I love about having comedians on is that it inspires me to do my best to be funnier. And I have this innate sense that I'm capable of a way more funny, but there's something in me that clamps down and makes that really hard. And then there's moments where I just feel so free and people laugh. And I'm like, all right, he's back. Welcome back, Dead Air.
Some reason my laptop was, I think the power strip I was plugged into switched.
Yes. So we covered off that idea. We said his laptop died, and we hope he makes it back, and we're glad you're back.
We berated you with fire and
and then
was like being a professional entertainer an entire life. You know how many times I forget to turn my phone on mute when I do a podcast recording or an interview? And of course, I'm here recording with you guys, and I forgot to make sure that my laptop is actually charged and plugged in.
Hey, since we're talking about creativity and comedy and all that, are you a fan of Tig Notaro?
I think Tig Notaro is an amazing performer. She's very talented, and she's really good at expressing her niche point of view to a broad audience of people.
Yeah. And part of what I love about her is, like, I keep thinking of the stool bit that she did, where she was just pushing the stool on the stage and it's making these squeaky noises on the floor. And the reason that bit was funny is she's able to be in that place of discomfort and just hang there comfortably. Like, oh, we're all uncomfortable right now. Let's just hang here and see what happens.
Yeah,
and
a lot of comedy comes from uncomfortableness, and it's whether you harness it the right way or not. There's so many comedians that make people uncomfortable in a bad way and think that that's what they're supposed to do. Like people laugh nervously because I don't know what to do at this moment right now because it's kind of awkward. And
I think Andy Kaufman is an example of that.
Again, Andy Kaufman did it purposely.
Yes.
Like he knew what he was doing. There's people who don't know what they're doing and they develop a bad habit. In my opinion, some people don't know what they're doing and they develop a bad habit. I don't want to walk away from a performance and make people feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. I want them to be happy and enjoy themselves. And it's made me focus a lot on some of the things that I write and how I deliver them and how I perform personally. Other performers do whatever you want.
Down as a result? Do you avoid punching down as a result?
I do. Yeah. I to use that terminology. Yeah. I try not to punch down because I don't want people to walk away feeling unhappy about it. I'm a comedian. My entire job is to make people laugh. Right. I don't want anyone to walk away and feel bad about the situation. A great example of this was I am a man of no hair, and one of the things that I have to.
No wonder you like Bobcat.
Yeah, one of the things that I have to relate to people is sometimes my uncomfortableness with how I am perceived by other people because of my haircut. Example, I work in tourism. The example in the middle of the example I was giving is I work in tourism in the city of Boston. And we have these vehicles that are all colorful and designed. And one of them has a giant American flag painted along the side of it. And is the only vehicle out of our 28 vehicles that I am uncomfortable driving around the city in, because if you see me driving around in a giant American flag with this haircut, I look like a background actor from American History X.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the same time, I do jokes about that to try and get people comfortable with me, my looks, my aggressiveness, and that. And I will often point to a man in the audience and go, "Sir, I look like a racist. You know what I'm talking about." You know, like Mark, same thing. And one day I turned and I pointed it at a man saying, "You know what I'm talking about." We all laughed at it. And then I turned and I was like, "I never thought I'd have to say this, but man, you also know what I'm talking about." And it was a woman who had a bald head, glasses, and this was in Maine. And I could see her face drop. And she became, she went from smiling to like sad, arms crossed. Halfway through my performance, she left. She didn't say anything. She didn't scream.
She jumped off the bus.
She got out, she left, and I talked to her friends after the show that night, and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. Did I offend your friend? I know she left in the middle of my set." And they're like, "Yeah, she has alopecia. She's very self-conscious about it." And they're like, "You are hilarious and funny, and she should learn to get over it." But also at the same time, I get at the same time, "Hey, lady, we're making jokes. Let's all laugh together. I'm making fun of myself. I made fun of you in conjunction with me." To me, I'm thinking we're having a kindredship, and she didn't see it the same way. And I had to think about that moment. It's like, I don't want her to walk away feeling like that. So do I not, if I'm in that situation again, do I just not do that joke in case of it? And those are things that you as individual performers have to deal with, whether you want to be in that, next time I say that joke, maybe a woman with alopecia goes, "Ha, I get it. Yeah, no, yeah, we're bald. We both look like Edward Norton and Edward Furlong. Yeah, I get it." Is the juice worth the squeeze? That's what I points out
that a lot of comedy is developed through pain. The pain of a joke that doesn't land, a setup that confused people instead of set things up, and that's why you got to get out there and work it, right? Because pain
some comedy,
teaches
yes. you. Some comedy can be written through pain. I don't think all comedy has to come from pain. I think comedy comes from shared experiences. So even if we have a shared experience that's not painful, that's not traumatic, I think that you can develop comedy. You should, as a good comedian, a good writer, you should be able to develop comedy from any situation in general. Shared ones make things easier because then we can all have, we all have a knowledge base of it. If you're going to share something if you're going to write comedy on a subject that is not a shared experience, you have to learn how to present it. One of my jokes that have always gotten the biggest reaction to me coming up after me, "Oh, I felt that same way." So I used to do a joke about walking down the street and being worried about the woman in front of you think that you are following them. And it hits because it's a shared experience. We've all had that moment in our lives where we're just walking and we're coincidentally going the same path as someone else. Is like, wait a second, does this person think I'm following them? It's a shared experience. So that's the joke throughout my career that gets the most coming up afterwards, and people are like, "Oh my God, I totally know what that looks like. I totally get that situation. That totally happens to me all the time." And the other thing that gets the second most amount of reaction is talking about working with kids at a school. Because there's many people who are teachers, many people are parents. We are all kids in a school for the most part at some point in our life, almost all of us, so we all have that shared experience too. Those are the two things that get the biggest reaction after the show, where somebody comes up to me and is like, "Hey, I completely understand what you were talking about with that joke about following somebody, or that joke about having to read story time to kids at an elementary school," because we all have those shared experiences. But there are things that I talk about, sometimes it's not as much as a shared experience that I have to learn how to, I had 2 heart attacks and a stroke at 34.
Wait, 2 what? Hard neck? What was that?
Heart attacks.
Oh, heart attacks.
Yeah, within 4 months of each other, and a stroke. By the way, to alleviate you, the stroke was caused by the surgery to stop the second heart attack because science.
Yeah.
And that's not relative to a lot of people. So I have to learn how to present that subject to people to make it relative, to make them understand me, my personality, what I went through, and make this a shared experience so that we can enjoy it together.
Is entertainment and comedy going to be your whole life, do you believe? Will you die with the mic in your hand?
Oh, I plan on dying on stage, probably sooner than expected. But I'm going to die either on stage or by my own hand, one or the other. Those are living with depression. The very reality of is I'm going to take my own life probably, but hopefully not today. Hopefully not tomorrow. Hopefully not for a long time. Hopefully never.
Right.
What if you were the first person who thought that was true, who decided that it didn't have to be true?
Oh, I mean, that's the thing about I struggle. I have to be cognizant of my mental health. Is it chemical? Is it nature? Is it nurtured? Whatever, however, my obsessive compulsive disorder, my depression, my intrusive thoughts and stuff, whatever is making them manifest. Excuse me, whatever makes them manifest. I have to learn to, at some point in my life through therapy, learn to live with that. I try to say I live with, I don't suffer from, I live with these things because I don't know if there's ever a cure with it. Yeah, it's a matter of letting it dwell on it. Do you dwell on it because you have to, or do you dwell on it because you don't know any better? So you have to, I've been fortunate enough to be a person who is very cognizant of my own self. What I'm thinking, what I'm going through. I've spent a lot of time in therapy. I spent a lot of time researching therapy on my own because there's a point where I realized I'm not right. I can't live this way and I have to find a way to do better. And,
was your family able to be allies in your journey of self-discovery and mental health?
My family's mostly supportive about it. Yeah. They are. We don't live with a lot of stigma in my family. I can honestly say that. One of the things I always talk about is that when I decided to pursue the arts as a career at a young age, my family was very supportive of it, which is not the typical with most families. Especially, I'm not an immigrant, but families of immigrant, people of immigrant parents, there is a lot of pressure to make sure that you have stability, that you assimilate, that you become part of the culture, that you follow a path that's going to create the best life for you and your offspring, and you can populate and continue to live a healthy, happy life. Whereas we can all see that, how many, we look, society as wise, we look at so many artists that struggled, like this 27 Club, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain,
Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin. They tried to sign
Jim Morrison,
Winehouse, Jim Morrison. All these people who are beloved died at the age 27. I don't want my kid to die at 27. I don't want him to become the next Jim Morrison. There's that stigma of the industry, but there's hundreds of thousands of very healthy, normal people. I don't want my kid to become a kid actor and then become the two kids from Different Stroke. That's not the short one. I don't want them to become up drug addicts and robbing banks. I don't want my kid to die like James Dean in a car crash at 20, whatever. However, he did one movie and then, 2 movies and then died in a car crash. I don't want my kid to become that. There's that stigma, but there is, for every one of those people that died tragically, there's 100 other people that lived a successful career.
Well, we certainly don't want to wake up one day in our lifetime and hear about your self-demise.
Yeah.
And if it's necessary for you, we honor your choice in that matter, or at least I do. I don't want to speak for Greg in this delicate subject. But what's funny about suicide?
It's painless.
Suicide is painless. The theme song to MASH, which, by the way, written by that guy's kid. Those lyrics, like the composer of the movie, his kid wrote that song. He's like, all right, here, I'm going to use it for the movie. Anyway, I don't think that suicide itself as a subject itself is funny. You can make certain things about it that some of us relate to funny. You can also make it funny through complete total shock value. Being shocked and appalled is a natural reaction to surprise. Comedy, laughter is a natural reaction to surprise.
To bring it back, Full
Fear is a
circle.
natural reaction to surprise. There's a correlation between laughter and fear, and they have a very similar path. They are two different things, but they come from dramatically the beginnings of them come from a similar place in the brain. Speaking as someone who has 6 years of community college and no degrees, I can't speak to science or psychology, but I think I just did.
To kind of bring it back full circle, did you ever see World's Greatest Dad by Bob Goldthwait?
Oh yeah, absolutely great movie. It's a fantastic movie that he wrote, that Bobcat wrote and directed. That Robin Williams is in. He has a small role in that.
No, he stars in it. He's the guy.
Yeah, he's the father.
Yeah.
And, well, I think the star of the thing is his son who kills himself. Hi, spoiler alert. That's like the first 10 minutes of the But yeah, Robin Williams has to deal is this father whose kid accidentally kills himself, and he has to learn to present that death to the friend's family and everyone around the world with him, and they're dealing with the uncomfortableness of it.
Right. And
so here's
of
these
what I
two
love-
guys that are incredible comedic geniuses who are presenting this story about how fragile and human we all are.
Yeah, that is real. That World's Greatest Dad is absolutely showing how fragile and human we all are. Yeah. Well, on that funny note.
And the train came to a screeching halt.
Let's bring the comedian on to talk about death and depression.
Well, I'll take full responsibility because I had the caucasity to ask what is funny about suicide. And
yeah, and I mean, it's like I'm glad you brought it up because I'm a huge advocate for mental illness. No, wait. No, take that back. No, that's not what I meant. I'm a huge advocate for mental health, right? Like, it would be weird if I just came on your whole podcast and was like, everyone should have depression. End of story. No, I don't want anyone to ever have the thoughts that I have in the deepest, darkest reaches of my brain that surface themselves. But I'm a huge advocate for mental health because one of the reasons why we as a society has suffered so long with people suffering from mental suffering. I will use that word correct. People who suffer with mental illness is because we put so much a stigma on it. We make it an uncomfortable situation to talk about. And I don't want to be uncomfortable to talk about it. I could not get help with my mental illnesses until I realized that I need to ask for help. Until I had to search out for help. And I try to talk about it openly in a way that makes it relative, in the way that doesn't make other people uncomfortable. And you know what? Sometimes the subject does make other people uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable. What we need to learn is to get past the uncomfortability of it and move on to healing and helping each other. There's a great band from Baltimore called War on Women. I know there's a friend who's going to be mad that I called them great, but they are a feminist hardcore band that has a great song about sexual assault and making it a stigma for women that, oh, you were sexually assaulted. It's something that you did wrong. It's something that you brought upon yourself. It's a thing that you should have known better. And that's not the subject. That's not the case.
Right.
You know,
right.
We tell young women, oh, you were wearing a halter top. Look at what you were wearing. You deserved what happened to you. No, we should never tell anybody. Like Adam Carolla used to do this great bit on Loveline where we talk about rape is like every other crime except for somebody comes at the end. And it should never be treated differently. You would never tell a murder victim, oh, it's your own fault. But we tell sexual assault victims that all the time. No one would ever get robbed at gunpoint, and then you would look at him and go, did you do something?
Shouldn't have been in that neighborhood.
You shouldn't have been in that neighborhood. No, we don't tell people that it's like, oh, that person did wrong. That person's a criminal.
What you're speaking to
so
is
much
a lack of compassion,
yeah,
right? And a lack of understanding. And typically when sexual assault victims are being blamed or told that they did it wrong, it's covering up some kind of shadowy aspect of male sexuality. No one wants to believe that they're capable of that, and they want to shunt it and make it about the victim, because to recognize that means that all of the men we're obligated to deal with that amongst ourselves. We have to talk to each other better about it. We have to hold men accountable who exhibit tendencies towards that, and make it something that we consider seriously and not give excuses for. Right. And it shows up in other ways, like sexual assault. When it's rape of a person who doesn't know another person, it's really obvious. But there's all kinds of flavors of this that occur in monogamous relationships where men are abusing women sexually in the context of their relationship. You know,
you can't rape your wife because she's your wife. No, you want,
there you go.
Means no, no matter legally binding contract or not.
Right. And you're not entitled to another person's body, no matter what.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely. And you know what? And here's what the hard part about comedy is: we could, as a society of comedians, be able to get people to that realization using comedy. We should be able to. But unfortunately, there's too many people that's on the opposite side of the argument that will take that satirical, that satirical point of view and laugh at it the wrong way. There's another great example of like laughing at things the wrong way was when I was training for this tour, comedic characterized tour guide position I have. A young lady in my group developed a Kennedy's-esque female character that was just a complete and total screw up. She's the forgotten Kennedy kind of like, she's a, debutante, drunk, character. And it's very fun. Yeah, entitled and, big hubris, but also just a sloppy mess. And it's a great look at the thing of the Brahms-esque situation of the people that lived in the Brahms were like the wealthy people that immigrated to this country from Europe that were seen to be better than other people. And it's a great, funny character because she's just a screw up. It's very I don't know if you know the British comedy show Absolutely Fabulous.
Fab.
Yeah. He's basically doing a Boston Kennedy's-esque ab-fab kind of character.
That's
and
brilliant.
it's funny. But one of the trainers turned her down on the character because his point was, we're worried that certain people may laugh at it for the wrong reasons. And that small amount of people can amplify how incorrect that this characterization is. We as a society, if we all know that we can laugh at it because it's not the actual thing, and we're shooting upward at the upper echelon of people. But unfortunately, because we still have so many people that would laugh at it, and we're worried about her as herself is like, hey, I'm pretending to be this kind of slutty character. And somebody would go, all right, well, if you're pretending to be a slut, I guess you're a real slut. And then we have to worry about her being physically assaulted. And that's not the situation. It sucks that we have to tell her, hey, you can't do this fake slutty character because we're worried that you're going to actually be assaulted by someone, when we should say, hey, you don't assault her.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's the situation that we kind of.
Do you think that Adam Carolla joke? Do you think that Adam Carolla joke falls into that category?
I think that it's him. I don't know if I would call the rape is like every other crime, except for somebody comes at the end. I would not call that a joke as much as it is a humorous way to get people to understand the severity of sexual assault.
Got it.
Yeah, I think what happens is we concentrate on the sexual in that phrase instead of the assault. It's an act of violence.
Exactly.
It's not a sexual act.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's exactly true. Wow. We for a comedy show, we've talked about death, suicide, and sexual
Welcome
assault.
to the Moped Outlaws, man. We go deeper than anyone.
We're a ray of sunshine and happy thoughts here. Hey, comedian, come on and talk about the worst things in society. That's what we're here for.
Well, part of how we make things better is by being willing to have the difficult discussions.
Yeah.
And then find the way back. Find the way to support each other. Find the way to create awareness that dismantles that element in ourselves. Because I'm really not that interested in telling you you've got to fix yourself as so much as I am interested in looking at the things that I learn about myself and going, I'm not willing to tolerate that, and setting the standard. So, we were talking about that fear of, we've all walked behind a woman as a man. We've walked behind a woman and we've not wanted them to feel like we're following them. That's a symptom of a larger issue. That is me being aware that there's a potential here that this person could feel something that they shouldn't have to feel, right?
Yeah.
And I had an experience recently where that was literally happening at a level, and the person was like 50 yards ahead of me. And so I called out to her. I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm not that dude. And I'm saying this out loud because I want to just cut through the noise so that you don't have to spend another minute worrying or even having that idea come up. And I was able to diffuse the energy for myself and for her simply by naming the thing. Right.
See, I like that. Like, you were able to like shout, like, hey, relax. I'm not going to hurt you. Whereas at the same time, I feel like if I'm falling behind somebody and I go, hey, I'm not following you, all I'm really thinking of is, hey, I've been following you.
Well, what happened was she slowed down and she walked next to me and we had a nice little conversation. And I addressed how women shouldn't have to feel this. And this is, it's wrong. And I don't know exactly how we fix it, but today, this is how I showed up to try to diffuse that. And, she got really warm with me in that sense. And there was a moment where it would have been I felt the urge to flirt with her. And I realized, no, that is the moment that I would then have crossed back over the line. Right. And so that was all me being conscious of my own impact.
I was at a bar and a friend of a friend was getting hit on by this guy who was just not taking no as an answer. I had to step in and was like, bro, back up. She doesn't like you. You're making her uncomfortable. Get out of here. She's too drunk to drive home. I drive her car home because I'm the only one at the bar that knew how to drive a stick shift. I drive her home. We get back. She's like, hey, why don't you come in? And this and that. And I'm like, am I going to flirt and am I going to start flirting with the woman that just had to rebuff a guy from flirting too much? No, I need to go home. I need to leave right now. I need to understand the situation is what it is. Like, yeah, that sometimes you put yourself in this situation where it's like, oh, no, I can't cross over and become the guy that I just defended them against.
Well, these instincts come from a weird, dark part of humanity. They evolved from this ancient need for us to reproduce, right? The means of which to reproduce. But I think that in those dark, shadowy parts of us is also some of why punchlines work, right? We're speaking to this element of ourselves that we're not quite sure we're in approval of, right? And that creates humor. And so comedy is medicine.
Yeah. Well, it's also like the thing of, I hope I'm going to get this right. I talk a lot about psychology for somebody who never studied psychology. The it and the id, and hopefully I get this right. The it is your outer personality and the id is your innermost thoughts. And
super
like
ego.
The super ego. And it's like, so it's like so much of our own id speaks to each other. Id going back to the relatability. Some people can't relate to their ids the way that other people can relate. Like I said, talking about my heart attacks, other people can't relate to what it's like to sit and be a 34-year-old in a heart ward of a hospital emergency room when everyone is 30 years older than you on New Year's Eve.
Wow. You really picked them.
Yeah. I'm alone in a hospital bed, too ashamed to tell anyone that I'm in the hospital because of chest pains. I just had heart surgery. That I'm like, the heart surgery was, if we don't give you surgery now, you're going to die. Like the seriousness of that. We can all appreciate maybe understanding the seriousness of the event, but not a lot of us have lived with, like I never stayed in a hospital until that day. I never had an overnight stay in a hospital. I never went to the emergency room before that. I walked with chest pains a mile from my apartment uphill to the emergency room. Why? Because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had to go to an emergency room. Second time I had the heart attack, I went in an ambulance ride for the first time. some of us can relate to that uncomfortability in the situation. Meanwhile, at the same time, the two ERs that's working is like, why are you cracking so many jokes? Because I'm uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the hard part of writing that bit was trying to express to other people all right, you haven't been in this situation, but here's a similar situation where you may have lived with that's also equally uncomfortable. And that's what we as have to, get people to understand.
Got it. Wow. What a fun and enlightening conversation, Dennis. For those of you who are in the area, you'll be appearing at the Auto Bar on this weekend.
Yep, December 13th, the Auto Bar in Baltimore City. It's the second Saturday shit show. Even if you're in the Baltimore area and you're not here in December, second Saturday shit show happens every second Saturday.
Which is funny because they're going to be hearing this on Monday and they'll be going, oh man,
I missed it.
but the one you can go to if you're listening to this is the Taco Rocks comedy tour, which is on the 20th, and that's in Arlington, Virginia. What other things are you up to besides what's here on your calendar?
I'm going to be, if you're in the Baltimore area again, or in the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, I'm also going to be 27th. I'm going to be at Max's on Broadway in Fells Point, which is a lot of the places I perform. I'm lucky that our historic places. Auto Bar is the best punk rock metal bar in all of Baltimore. It's been around for decades. Amazing bands have come through there, and I'm honored to be able to do that venue every time I'm in town. My friend Mike Quinlan runs the second Saturday shit show, and bless his heart, he puts me on. It's an amazing venue to be in. If you're in that area and it's the second Saturday, go to the show. You're going to see amazingly talented comedians. Mike Quinlan puts together a great lineup of people, and he's a guy that is very cognizant of the world that we live in when it comes to comedy. And then the Max is on Broadway. 300 beers on tap, probably more than that now. It's on Broadway in Fells Point, Maryland. It's an amazing bar. If you are a beer aficionado, that's the place for you. That my friend Bill Frank runs that show every Saturday. So if it's not the second Saturday, you can go to and it's not the month of December, second Saturday, you can go to Auto Bar. If it's not the second Saturday, first, third, or fourth, or fifth, sometimes there's 5 Saturdays in a month. Go to Max's on Broadway, see the comedy shows, support live comedy, support comedians. We can't do this without you. It looks weird when we're in a room by ourselves yelling at each other. It's uncomfortable.
So on the off
but
chance,
I'm also touring country. I am touring the country throughout January, February, and to the beginning of March. So I might be coming to a city near you. Keep an eye out on my socials at DEADAIR Dennis on every platform. DEADAIR DENNIS or deadairdennis.com.
Got it. That was the other question I was going to ask you. If Joe Rogan calls us and wants to get a hold of you, he goes to at DEADAIR Dennis. He can find you everywhere. That brings us up to a pivotal moment in every broadcast. We've had the funny, we've had the serious. Now it's the dessert time. Dessert for Greg and I, because we ask this question of every guest. And honestly, it matters to us. So with no further ado, Greg.
Eminem or Foo Fighters?
Eminem as in Marshall Mathers or Foo Fighters?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's clear, because if it's Eminem candies or Foo Fighters, I'm going to the candy all day long. That's why I have diabetes and heart disease. But I'm going to go out of the two of them, Foo Fighters. I think it's hard to distinguish between those two amazingly talented performers. The difference between the two of them is Eminem does...
he's sweeter.
Actually, I think he's the exact opposite. He draws inspiration from the darkness, whereas Foo Fighters are light and they're happy. Dave Grohl is just a positive influence on everything. And I've been lucky enough to see the Foo Fighters in a small, intimate nightclub. I worked in radio for a bunch of years, and I was fortunate that the Foo Fighters decided they want to do a small, intimate club in the DC area that, the DC Northern Virginia area that Dave Grohl grew up in, a historic rock club called the 930 Club. If you're from the DMV, you know the 930 Club. It's a small venue, and I got to see Dave Grohl perform on stage from 5 feet away.
Wow.
And the week before that, I saw him at an arena, and him and Taylor Hawkins, RIP, are so infectiously energetic in whether it's, George Mason University Arena or whether it's the 930 Club. They have so much energy, and their smiles are big, and they perform like it's the first and last time they'll ever get to do it. And I will see them, and I'm not going to take anything away from Eminem. I respect him a lot for him to be able to bring the darker parts of his world and his life and bring it out to the world to present as, here's the thing. Like, Stan's an amazing song. Even Rap God, like one of his newer songs, is still a fantastic song. Even when he, like, what is it, with Forgot About Dre. Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. Just a bunch of gibberish, and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre. That 2 lines, 3 lines, whatever it is, makes you completely understand Dr. Dre's
impact,
position, at his impact on the industry, and where he's at with that, the Chronic 2 or the Aftermath, whatever that album was called. I think it was the Aftermath. Anyway, because there was the Chronic and then the Aftermath. Right. Because he named it after the line of the other thing. He's bringing to you in 3 lines how Dr. Dre, the justification for how Dr. Dre is supposed to feel that he is one of the most pivotal influencers in hip hop music industry, not just as a rapper, but as a producer. Like, his beats for his time frame could not be. And this is a guy who started spinning disco records and transitioned into being one of the biggest hip hop artists on there. Also, not to shy away from it, he is also allegedly a sexual assailant and a domestic abuser. I would hope that he would be better than that, but that is also the realization of who is Dr. Dre. But Marshall Mathers, not necessarily, as far as we know, an alleged abuser, but Dave Grohl, a confirmed philanderer, also still a very talented musician. So I'm going to go with Foo Fighters.
Got it. Thank you for that. And we honestly hope one day they'll collaborate.
We'll get an Eminem and Foo Fighters song together. That's what I'm looking for. You know what? If Sir Paul McCarthy could play with Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic and not know who they are, we can get Eminem and Dave Grohl together.
DEADAIR Dennis.
The Foo Fighters just fired their drummer, Josh Freese, and maybe, I don't know if they've announced who their replacement drummer is, but maybe it's Eminem. Maybe Eminem is going to be the heir apparent drummer to the Foo Fighters, and he will pay homage to Taylor Hawkins with his drum beats.
I heard it was a beatboxer.
That's what we got. We got the Foo Fighters with Marshall Mathers in the background. I don't beatbox.
But you do so much more. It's been a true pleasure to have you, Dead Air. Let us know if you're going to be in the SF Bay Area. We'd love to come by and support you and just have a few laughs and maybe a cocktail.
Absolutely. I've been wanting to go to the Bay Area. Every time I've been only in California, I only go to LA, and I try to make plans for San Francisco and San Diego. And I just gotta find that, and I'll definitely reach out when I'm in the Bay Area.
Recording stopped.